All right, guys. So Stephen A. Smith went on The View, and this was after the election, I guess, and they were asking him some political stuff. Now, of course, I'm sure most of you know Stephen A. Smith from doing his sports debates. Very prominent sports debate guy. And by the way, look, that makes it so he is a debate guy, right? Like he was on Hannity the other day and ran circles around Hannity, and it's because Stephen A. Smith has to debate every single day. So he has to come sharp, he has to come prepared, he has to know his talking points, and he has to get it across in a charismatic way. So, people were saying on Twitter after Stephen A. Smith dog-walked Hannity, like, look, he was baptized in the fires of sports debate talk TV. Like, you're not going to be able to fight him. If you're, a political type, good luck. Good luck on that. So they bring up politics to him, and here's what he says.
You've been asked, I hear, about running for political office in the future. And some people have said that they could see you running for president. Mm-hmm. Would you do that? You think you qualified to run for president? I mean, the bar's pretty low anyway.
I do not.
Can you rephrase that?
I just think that the bar is really low because Trump really had no political experience and went from 0 to 100, right? He didn't start in the city council and stuff like that. So the bar is low. Anyone can run.
I have said this on many occasions. The answer would be hell no, because I like my life. I'm living a pretty good life. But I must confess, I wish I could debate some of these guys. I'd love to be on a debate stage going up against these guys with the presidency on the line.
Don't say that, because we will arrange that.
I'm half joking, but I kind of mean it. I mean, I have no desire to be a congressional figure or a senator, but if you came to me and you told me I had a legitimate shot to win the presidency of the United States of America, I would definitely consider it. But here's the problem.
So if somebody came to him and said, look, man, you really have a shot, he would take it. All right. Okay, Stephen A.
To the line.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, absolutely. For that, yes, because others have, okay, including Democrats, by the way. Yeah. I mean, they broke the line. What's wrong with me doing it? But I would be an independent because I don't like either side. And I'm not going to be bought and paid for. I'm going to do what I believe is in the best interest of the American people, whatever that may be.
So he's right about something and he's wrong about something, okay? He's right about the independent thing giving him a unique appeal if you run as an independent, but he's wrong that an independent running as an independent has a chance. They just don't. Ask RFK, that's why he dropped out and hopped on Trump's bandwagon. Ask Ross Perot, who came as close as anybody, but he only got, 13 or 19% of the vote and did get a single electoral college vote. Like it or hate it, we have a two-party system, period. And until you do ranked choice voting or some sort of serious reform, you're stuck with one of two party choices, period. You are. I mean, look, this was the perfect time. 2016 was the perfect time for a Green Party run. And what did they get? 3%? Didn't even get to that 5% number where they get matching funds. This time around, there's a fucking genocide going on, right? And what did Jill Stein get? 0.5%? Something like that. So the third party dream has never been more dead. But running as an independent, too, you're just kept out of the debates. You're kept out of actually having a chance. They sort of rig it against you openly. And so he's right about the independent thing, but Stephen A., you would have to be an independent running as a Democrat. You understand what I'm saying? Or a Republican, but you'd have to pick one of the two parties, say, I'm an independent running as a Democrat or running as a Republican, just like what Bernie Sanders did in 2016 and 2020, and by the way, he did pretty goddamn good. Never mind all the colossal barriers put up against him and the 1,000 ways they tried to tip the scales against him. So he's right about the independent thing, but he'd be wrong if he runs as an independent and, registers as an independent, runs as an independent. You can be an independent and run as a Democrat or Republican. Okay, we're not done.
And that's what most people say when they run, and then they get in there and it's like, hey, you can't make that decision without us. And it's like, well, where did you come from?
But that's because they're at the mercy of the pocketbooks on either side, because they know that it takes money to campaign, run the commercials. Look at what Trump did in terms of the commercials that he was running against Kamala Harris. He spent millions upon millions of dollars, doing what he did. And you need the money in order to be known. But if I didn't need it, please. It was just us going on a debate stage and let's talk about the issues that affect America. Name the time and place. So
listen.
The thing is, Stephen A., Kamala way outraised Trump. Kamala raised $1 billion. Trump raised less than that. Hillary outraised Trump. Trump beat Kamala. Trump beat Hillary. It's not just about the money anymore. It's really not. Especially at the presidential level where there's so much just free media. Everybody's going to talk about the presidential race regardless of how much money you're raising, right? So it's possible. It's possible. All right, so now let's have the conversation. Should Stephen A. Smith run for president? Look, here's the thing. I am, and I mean this to my core, and you could ask Crystal this too, I'm a massive Stephen A. Smith fan. I fucking love Stephen A. Smith because he's so charismatic and interesting and intriguing, and he's one of those guys where when he talks, you just want to listen to him. There's an X factor there that not many people have. Every now and then you come across somebody who has that X factor, and it's like when they talk, your attention just goes there, right? Honestly, I feel the same way about Bill O'Reilly, who I hate his politics completely, but he was such a phenomenal talker that you start listening naturally when he talks. Other people, you kind of just tune out naturally when they start talking. He's such a great talker. He's such a great charismatic figure. I watch some of his sports debate stuff, but I also listen to his podcasts on a fairly regular basis. So I love him as a character. I do. But here's why I would ultimately say no. It's not going to be Stephen A. Smith. It's not going to be Stephen A. Smith because he doesn't have the ideology that we need right now. He just doesn't. As much as I love Stephen A. Smith, he supported Kamala Harris, right? He didn't fall for all the Trump bullshit. But he truly is an ideological centrist. He truly is. When he says he's a centrist, he means he's a conservative Democrat. So he's really rich. He doesn't hide the fact that he's rich. And he's like, yeah, I'm rich. I want tax cuts for myself. And I respect that honesty. I respect that openness. But that's not what the country needs right now. We don't need another president who's going to cut taxes for the rich again and exacerbate income and wealth inequality when this country is clearly in the mood for a fucking revolution. They voted for Donald Trump twice. He's a revolutionary conservative, right? They like the revolution part. They won't like the conservative part. But he doesn't have the right ideology. He just doesn't. So, you listen to his politics stuff on his show. I mean, yeah, he says plenty of things that are reasonable, plenty of things that make sense, especially when he's going after Donald Trump. But then he'll do his rant about how Democrats got to be tougher on the border. It's like, Stephen A., I don't know what to tell you. Kamala Harris just did, they had the toughest border bill in decades, a right-wing border bill that they tried to get passed, and Donald Trump killed it. The idea that Democrats aren't tough enough on the border, and that's why they lost, is not true. He also buys into this notion that cancel culture and wokeness screwed over Democrats. Stephen A., Kamala Harris did not mention her race, did not mention her gender, did not mention political correctness, did not mention cancel culture, did not mention identity politics, stressed this idea of we're all Americans, talked about freedom and patriotism. She ran the platonic ideal of a non-woke Democratic campaign, and she still lost, right? So it's not that Democrats are for open borders and weak on the border. They're not. They're just not. It's not that they didn't run tough enough on the border. They did run tough on the border. It's not that they were too woke. They weren't woke at all in this campaign. The problem is, as we've discussed, Trump is angry. People like that anger. Trump has a narrative that he sells the American people. The narrative is the problem is the immigrants. The problem is trans people. The problem is these minority groups, the cultural elites, the Hollywood types. They're the problem. That's his narrative. People wanted to be sold a story about who's to blame for all their woes. They bought Trump's story because he had a story. He had a narrative. Democrats don't have a narrative. They don't have a story. They're technocrats. You know what that means? Hey, let's tweak the status quo around the edges, but tell people everything's going great overall. And there is no story where we are the protagonist in the story and here are the people you're supposed to be against. Here's the people you're supposed to fight against. There is no story at all. There just isn't. And so the real story that needs to be sold is the Bernie Sanders story, which we've talked about 100 times. The Bernie Sanders story is, you want to know why you're so pissed off? You want to know why you're so angry? You want to know why this country is so screwed at the moment? It's screwed because your wages aren't going up. It's screwed because you have shitty healthcare. You're living in poverty. We have a housing crisis. We have no strong social safety net in this country. And the reason you should be pissed off, or the people you should be pissed off at, it's the big money donors. It's the wealthy. It's the billionaires. It's the corporations. It's the super PACs. They have bought the government, and the government represents them. It does not represent regular people like you. That's the counter narrative, Stephen A. And Stephen A., look, he's a wealthy dude, and he'll say it up front. I don't think he sees that narrative. He doesn't agree with that narrative. He sort of agrees with the Democratic narrative of let's be technocratic managers and do tweaks around the edges to improve people's lives, but at the same time, let's validate the right-wing framing. Yes, be afraid of immigrants. Yes, be afraid of the immigrants and blame them. And I don't think that's not enough. In this populist era of age, that's not enough. Now, the upside of Stephen A., though, would be, he would not hold back on Republicans. As much as he would not really have a grander narrative, he would be phenomenal at debating Republicans into the ground. And it's possible that that's enough to win after 4 years of Trump destroying everything, right? It is possible that it's just a total anti-incumbent swing election right back to the Democrats. But I would like something more idealistic. I'd like something more ideological and philosophical and to the core of what it means to fix the country. And I don't see him representing that. I see him as like a practical, pragmatic, centrist / conservative Democrat who would be phenomenal at campaigning and is a phenomenally compelling character, but ultimately is really a continuation of the status quo in many ways, even though he thinks he's not a continuation of the status quo, right? So, but hey, it would make for tremendous content, wouldn't it? It would, like, literally. I was disappointed, obviously, when Kamala lost, and we were all feeling it. But then we were like, hey, man, are there any upsides? Are there any silver linings here? And the only silver lining is, like, tremendous content. I mean, you hate to say it, right? I don't like that fact, but it's true. It's a content goldmine. And somebody like Stephen A. running would be a fucking content goldmine. So anyway, Stephen A., I love you. I'll keep watching your show. But unless you become more populist and change your ideology and change your narrative a little bit, I don't see it for you. But I do see it for Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart 2028. He fits the bill absolutely perfectly. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.